Hey everybody, this is Full Time. I'm Max Bredos. We're at Bank of California Stadium, where today it's the MLS Media and Marketing Tours. This is where everyone, who's anyone, comes together to talk MLS. The players are here, the coaches are here, the journalists are here, get together, get ready for the season. So I'm here as well, and I figured this would be a good place to talk about what's happening in Major League Soccer on Full Time, and there is a lot. The off-season's become a really fun follow. Excuse me for the AirPods, it just makes the audio better. But it's been a really good follow for, it's been a really good time to be a fan, to see who's coming in. There's already an incredible list of players that are coming to a Major League Soccer. I'll start there. And we're all waiting for Chicharito. It's going to happen. It might happen by the time you watch this. And this is a breakthrough signing for a lot of reasons because of, if you ask me, it's a crossroad moment for the player in the league. League needs Chicharito. Chicharito needs the league. So it's time, and you can get him for a good price, whether there's 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it might be. You're going to get him for a good deal. It could have been a lot higher, but after struggling at West Ham and struggling as well at Sevilla, where in the sense where he's not getting regular games, now's the time. And he is going to sell a ton of shirts. He won't have the Zlatan effect, and I talked about this in my last Full Time, but this is going to be huge. It's going to catch all the eyeballs in Mexico, because Chicharito in Mexico can do no wrong. He is the golden child. Carlos Vela, many others, Hector Herrera, are not there. Chicharito, he has carte blanche. Tarjeta blanca, as they would say in Mexico. There was a lot of great signings from Mexico to come with Carlos Vela. Alan Pulido, I think it's $9.5 million from Chivas to Sporting Kansas City. Edison Flores just signed, the Peruvian, from Morelia to DC at $5 million. Atlanta United got Fernando Mesa from Necaxa, the Argentine defender, and Lucas Cavallini. Vancouver really staking a lot on this guy as their striker from Puebla. So we do have that, and I think there's a lot of teams that need help. Chicago Fire, they got new ownership. They're playing at Soldier Field. They still have 3 DP slots. Expect them to make some noise. Expect the Portland Timbers to make some noise. Expect it to get pretty noisy, to become the noisy season. There's a lot of teams also, and we're going to talk about next, about those involved in the CONCACAF Champions League that have already started training, and they have to have made noise already. I'll break down their chances here in a little bit. A few other things to look forward to 2020. We now have 26 teams with the arrival of Nashville and Inter of Miami, Nashville SC. Neither team I expect to maybe make the postseason, depending on what happens in the summer, I think, for Miami. But right now, as it stands, I don't think either one is a playoff team, but certainly could be that. Miami has been a frustrating follow, if I could be so frank. I'm from Miami. I can kind of say those things. But this cavalcade of players that they were going to signing and nothing's happened, and they'll get their striker. But, when you throw out Luis Suarez and Gareth Bale, not to mention the stadium situation. I don't want to get into that, but Miami's up and running, and I think it's going to get better for them. But I think there's a lesson there as to over-promising and just worry about delivering down the road, as teams like Atlanta and LAFC were able to do. I think one thing we also need to look at for Major League Soccer is we do have a ruling class. And I think we saw it in the playoffs last year, the Final Four, LAFC, Seattle, Toronto, and Atlanta. I expect those 4 teams and a couple others to be amongst that elite group, and that is good. There's been a lot of discussion here in the offseason about changing the DP rules so that other teams can be more competitive. That's a step in the wrong direction, if you ask me, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. You got to encourage other teams to be better. You spend money, but it's a big league with 26 teams, and finding players and competing with other teams to do that is going to be pretty challenging. But having a ruling class is good. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'll be open about the broadcast side, having worked with Fox and ESPN, now with LAFC. Major League Soccer was becoming a regional sport. So and we'd have national broadcasts on Univision, ESPN, and Fox. And when you're a regional sport, you could have a national game, say Philadelphia and the Red Bulls, people in the country aren't going to watch it. Even Galaxy, LAFC recently would not be watched. You need to have good teams that the whole country wants to tune in on. And if you have 5 or 6 of those, that helps. And you see a slight increase in the broadcast. We saw a huge breakthrough with the LAFC Galaxy games year, but it was Vela, and certainly Zlatan takes a lot of credit for that. And hopefully Chicharito can keep that going. So the ruling class, the star power, is going to help it stop being a regional league. ESPN, and they're putting a lot of their games on ABC this year, I think 10. Fox is going to do some on the big Fox, as they like to call it, as well. So these are things I think are going to be really cool to look forward that are unique to this season. All right, let's go through some of the teams. And again, with all the teams, it's so hard to feed them all. I mentioned Edison Flores for DC. This is a great signing, but one player, one city, it's going to help it. Remember, they lost their two best attacking players, so there's still a lot of work to be done. But let's talk with the 5 teams from Major League Soccer that are going to the CONCACAF Champions League. You have the Sounders, the champions. You have LAFC, the Supporter Shield. New York City FC, Atlanta, and Montreal. You can't afford to be too patient here if you're serious about winning it. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the enthusiasm and the belief that an MLS team can win it from the MLS teams. I'm here at LAFC. I feel it here. I hope that's feeling the same way in Seattle, Atlanta, and New York, New Jersey, and certainly Montreal. But Montreal are lagging a bit. But I'll go through it really quick. Seattle kept their team together that won MLS Champions, so that's encouraging. They also have a very favorable draw. They start against Olympia, and if they win that, they take on the winner Montreal or Saprissa. They lost a lot of defenders. Kim Ki-hee, this Korean, probably not coming. Roman Torres has gone to Miami. They do have Xavier Arriaga, who they brought in to be their star defender, but they need another one. They brought in Shane Elliott from Orlando, but they need more defensive help because they're going to need that. And once you see that, I think there'll be some enthusiasm. But they still have Nico Loadero and Raul Ruiz and Jordan Morris, so should be able to score goals. The draw suggests I think this is a semifinalist. Good. LAFC loaded, signing more good young international players. And on all accounts, on my discussions with Bob Bradley and John Thorrington, the GM, they're taking this very seriously. They want to win it. They have a tough draw to open up against Leon. All these teams do get to practice a little bit earlier, and that's really important because the Mexican teams that they're going to face at some point, Mexican teams who've won 14 straight years, have already begun their season. So there is a disadvantage there, but that's part and parcel for this tournament. New York City FC, they did get a new coach, Ronny Deila, Norwegian, most notably for his days at Celtic. Everyone's back, really. They did lose Ben Sweat to the expansion draft. They have the good young attacking players, Valentin Castellanos, Alexander Mitriza, Aber, Keaton Parks, some good young players coming through. They will face they place AD San Carlos, which they should beat. That's the weakest team of the 16 on paper. And then Alianza or Tigres. They do have their goalkeeper back. New York City FC, everything's good except for the new coach. Got to get with it. Atlanta United, you'd like because they are Atlanta. They have ambition. They got to go through this tournament last year while having a new coach. Now Frank de Boer is there for the duration. They have been active enough. I mentioned the signing of Fernando Mesa. The Julian Gressel situations out there. Brooks Lennon brought in. Emerson Heinemann locked in. So they do have a good group. They will open with Motagua of Honduras on the 18th of February. Nationalize a bunch of players. This is the year for Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco. I do want to say this when I talk about Atlanta, and from this point forward, I lost a friend, colleague at ESPN, Ed Ashoff. He was a big Atlanta fan, and I'm going to miss trying to get him to come to the stadium to see games, which he was at a lot. So Ed, I hope you hear me. We're thinking about you always. Final team is Montreal Impact. The big move from them is Thierry Henry. They open with Saprissa, which I think is going to be very tricky for them. Ignacio Piatti's back. And Boyan Kirkic, Safir Taider, who were there last season. It's their time to shine. It's going to be a tall hill, but they've surprised us in this competition before. In closing, 2 years ago was a great year for MLS clubs in this competition, with the Red Bulls making the semi, Toronto FC reaching the final. Last year, only semifinalists was Sporting Kansas City, and they got blasted by Monterrey in the semifinals. So it's got to get better than that. We certainly hope so. I think at the very least we'll have a semifinalist, but let's look for 2, and at the very least a finalist. Por favor. Por favor. Once again, we're at the MLS Media and Marketing Tour here, full time. Appreciate your support for all of this, and we're going to talk a lot of MLS because it's this league I'm closest to and I have access, which I'm going to bring it to you. We're at the beautiful Founders Club at Bank of California Stadium. All right, the Galaxy is a team that we mentioned the ruling class, a squad that could reach that. The Chicharito signing is going to happen. Alexander Katai they brought in. They did lose Uriel Antuna. They did keep Christian Pavon. They have to rebuild that attack around Chicharito, but I think there's a belief that he could be a better team player. There is a need to build the defense. I love their coach, Guillermo Barros Esqueloto. I think this is a team that's always going to want to be relevant, and they have put the history in, they have the money as well to do that. This is a team to watch, and I think it's so important to have that LA rivalry illuminated. And Vela and Chicharito will do that. And again, people talk about whether it's Fútbol Picante, Línea de Cuarto, they all talk about MLS now. That's great. Western Conference teams, Real Salt Lake, they develop with the homegrown players. Houston has Tab Ramos. I think that he'll make them better. Portland, I feel for Portland very much because of the Brian Fernandez situation. They had their striker, they had their attacking guy for 5 years that could be a star. A situation out of their hands, and they had to part ways with the striker. We wish the best for Brian Fernandez to help his life as well. Portland did sign a second shout-out brother, Yimi, paid top dollar for him, and they have a Croatian guy that they're in the works, and then obviously Diego Valeri. Portland, I think, is going to be there at the end, but we have to see them build in this offseason as well to see if they want to get there. Things that I like from other teams, it's interesting because it's a lot of teams outside of the playoff positions. So I think you're going to see teams get back in there. Columbus Crew, love it, love it. Everyone loves what Columbus did. Lucas Zelarayan, they spent $7.5 million from Tigres to sign him. Darlington Nagbe, getting back to Atlanta. That's a guy they have to replace, and they've mentioned it. That's a priority. But Darlington Nagbe, Milton Valenzuela, the young Argentine fullback, is healthy. This is going to be a really good team. So Caleb Porter has a good situation going for himself there. I like Sporting Kansas City after missing the postseason. They're going to be back with Alan Pulido as that striker that they have desired for so long. You know, this is a team that was this close to making MLS Cup in 2018. This is a team also that has tried and tested players. And remember, they had a lot of Johnny Russells at DP, Felipe Gutierrez. These are guys that may not contribute, but some of them will. And Ilya at the back of the midfield. Sporting Kansas City will be it as well. A playoff team again. I like what they've done. I mentioned Toronto FC in the ruling class. I think they'll stake their claim there as well. San Jose, Matias Almeida for another year, missed the playoffs by this much. They've locked down Christian Espinoza. We look for another signing from them. And I think San Jose is a team that could probably slip into those playoff positions ahead of some of the teams that they just missed out to a season ago. So anyway, this is it's a great time to chat with you. I know I talked a lot of themes, but any questions about Major League Soccer, about the U.S. national team, leave them in the comment section here, and we will share them here on Full Time on my YouTube page. Thank you so much for participating. Spread the wealth. Tell a friend. Leave your comments. I will answer your questions the next time. Special midweek Full Time here for your listening pleasure from Bank of California Stadium.